Some people call this the Canadian stroke. I like to call it the guide stroke just because the canoe guides that spend hours and hours and hours and miles paddling a canoe naturally transition the J stroke into this. It's much more relaxing and more efficient, and at the end of the day you're nowhere near as tired as you would be if you had been doing the same distance using a J stroke. I've got this canoe set up on a picnic table and I've got a ladder to get in and out. And the reason I've done that is it's kind of magic. A lot of what happens with that stroke happens underwater and it's hard to see. So by doing it this way, I hope the illustrations that presented in the video will be much easier to understand. Without further ado, I'd like to spend a moment just talking about how you might want to hold a paddle. Typically, people find this position fairly comfortable. It gives you more leverage on the paddle and it feels easier. But if you look, I can only reach from there to there without twisting my body, and I can only come back as far as that. Plus, my hand is getting in the way and I can be bopping my knuckles and it can feel uncomfortable. I find it much easier to slide my hand up the shaft a little bit. I'll keep both arms above the gunwale. This gives me a lot more reach, front and back. And if you think about it, the canoe wants to turn at your body position. The farther away you can apply leverage, the more efficient it becomes. Plus, it's also a lot easier to get the paddle vertical, and you can get under the canoe to do some more aggressive steering. The guide stroke, knife J, Canadian stroke, whatever you want to call it, is a variation of the J stroke. Normally the J would be power forward, do that twist in your upper hand, steer for a bit, then reach out and power again. So that's power, pause, steer, power, pause, steer. The evolution of that is the guide stroke, Canadian stroke, knife J, whatever you want to call it, where you do the recovery, and that includes steering. So rather than power, pause, steer, you do the recovery right there. So you can do that stroke as fast as you want. And I'm steering during this portion. And if you like to use the gunnels, it's possible to even let go. Pressure of the water will lock the gunwale in place, and all you have to do is slide forward, and you don't have to use your bottom arm until you get back to there. And what I'm doing here is my top arm, I'm just letting the weight of that arm pull down towards me, and that's steering the canoe. So it's not even muscle strength, it's just simply the weight of the arm, and this arm is doing nothing, so it's much more relaxing. The key to being able to do the Canadian guide stroke knife J properly is finding the spot where you twist the paddle and it catches the water. The key to that is to keep your bottom hand loose, and you should feel everything just with your top hand. When I'm pulling, I'm just using my fingers, and when I'm recovering, I'm just using my thumb. That way, all of the tension I can feel on the paddle happens with the top hand. So, power stroke comes in. I will start a twist right here, and the leading edge of the paddle, that's the part facing the bow, will twist down a little bit. Too much and it grabs, too little and it accomplishes nothing. You're taking one body of water that you've captured in the power stroke, you twist it out, that's the J stroke portion, but right there you're turning it into a slicing motion, and that is what's going to steer the canoe on the second half. Here's your J stroke. That's only half your steering. When you get to there, the leading edge of the paddle should be tipped down, and as you slice forward, that's going to steer the canoe. Anything that you do behind your body is going to steer the canoe away from your power side. Once you get past that point, it's counterproductive, because now you're at the front of the canoe, and any steering you apply is going to swing it back to the direction you don't want to go. There's the portion that you have to feel, and it happens right at your hip. If you wait too long, you can't catch that water, and people have a hard time with that. So it's, picture a ball that you've got here, and you've captured it, and you want to take that ball and roll it without losing it in the middle of the paddle. So you have to feel that tension, and then once you get to there, you can disregard the ball, let it go. Now you're taking a new section of water, and you're slicing that forward until you get to there. Once you're there, the paddle should be flat, and then your next power stroke happens. Pitch down, slice forward, and then it's flat until you start the next power stroke. First half is sort of the J, second half is that slicing recovery. Right there is where you need to feel it, and that's the part that people have a hard time with. Twist at your hips, bring the leading edge down, and then slide it forward. And once you get to your hips, your paddle should be no longer have any pitch to it. It should be just flat across the water. If you try and continue that forward, you're actually just going to slow the canoe, and it's going to want to turn away from you. This will give you an idea of what it looks like from behind. It helps to visualize what's happening with the paddle. This will be the power portion. There's the J stroke. Right there you notice I'm pitching the blade down. I'll exaggerate it a bit so you can see it. That's the recovery, and then it's flat. Power, J stroke, pitch right there. Keep the pitch until you get to there, and then it's flat, and then repeat your power stroke. I'll speed it up a bit so you can see what it would look like regular. Steering happens in a J stroke when you pull forward, twist the paddle, and then push that same body of water away from you. The power stroke wanted to swing the canoe that direction. The J stroke portion swings it back. The guide stroke, Canadian stroke, when you do the recovery, you've used that J portion, but that's only half of the steering. The other half happens when you do the recovery by slicing it forward. When you get to your hip, that has to stop. If you continue with that slicing forward motion, what's going to happen is the canoe will slow down, and right now you're applying steering to the front of the canoe, which is going to swing it back in the direction you don't want it to go. So it's really important that your recovery stops at your hip. The rest of it, the paddle is just flat across the water until you start your recovery stroke again. Ends there, out of the water. J stroke, pitched forward slicing, and then it's flat.